What's going on YouTube? It's Filthy and we're back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're looking at 5 criminally underrated free uncommon champions who anybody can get either from purchasing them from the market or by opening up mystery shards. I've started a new account over the last 30 days. It's been loads of fun playing through the early parts of this game. I've been looking through the index a lot and thinking about some of the champions that might have been useful to build in this initial time. Now, I've got quite lucky with shard pulls. We've got lots of nice epics that we've got shards for. Not everyone's going to have good RNG, so we need to know, are there any uncommon champions that are kind of underrated that we can maybe build that would help us in some areas of the game. I'm going to give you 5 suggestions for kits that I really like. Before we do get going though, guys, as always, thumbs up brightens my day, and subscribe if you're interested in Raid Shadow Legends. I'm going to be playing this account all the way through, hopefully until end game, as well as more fun videos and stuff. Right, we're not going to talk about 2 uncommons that most people I think are probably aware of, and if you're not, these are champs who I think you could easily take to 60. I've got 2 60 Armigers on my main account. I still use them in my finite team along with a cold heart, just to keep the turn meter of the finite on normal completely down. This guy does turn meter control on his A1. If he crits, you have to build him with crit rate, which is unfortunate. He's also got enemy max HP, which can hit really hard on his second skill on his A3 on a 2-turn cooldown. Blocks revive. So this guy is really useful in the Ice Golem to block the minion revive, because that will save you a load of headaches and failed runs. But his main thing is turn meter control. Of course, excellent in finite if you can get the shield down. Excellent in spider because you can try and stop the spider from healing. Great in Doom Tower to try and lock somebody else. Defense based. So as he scales up his defense, not only does he become tougher, he also does more damage. So we like Armiger a lot. I think a lot of people know about him. The other one that commonly you see at 60 is going to be Shieldguard. Again, not a great secret because, again, defense based. You build him with tankiness, toughness, increases defense. He does more damage. A2 attacks everybody, fills his own turn meter by 20% for each critical hit. So again, you want to build him with 100% crit rate. But what will happen is, because you can book this down to a 2-turn cooldown, he can easily fill his own turn meter. Somewhere like Spider, Doom Tower, dungeon-based content, Faction Wars can get 40, 80, 100% turn meter fill. He then comes in, does his A1 because he essentially gets an extra turn. This has got 30% chance of placing, albeit the small version of decreased speed for 2 turns. Bucket up to 50%, and every other A1 you're at least slowing 1 target down. Really good again for Spider, because decreased speed means less Spider turns, less heals. Not bad for the finite as well if you can get that decreased speed on, but not an amazing champion for there because he's not got any multi-hits. He does also remove 1 debuff from himself. So again, Spider, you could build him with reasonable resist, and he might resist a bunch of poisons. Every time he takes a turn, he's going to get rid of 1 of them anyway. He's great as a early game nuker in arena because he's defense based. So even if you don't get to go first, he can come back and save the day. Put him in lifesteal and he can solo the Minotaur 15 if you get a strong enough shield guard. So you do see him a lot. Again, if you pair him with somebody who does increased defense, he can then hit with another 60% extra defense, which is just brilliant. So I feel like everybody knows those 2. If you don't, they're champions that I've got 60 on my main. I'm considering doing both of those to 60 on this account, even with some of the really nice epics we've got, because I do like their kits. They are quite good. So that's the 2 main big kings of uncommons. So bringing us to our first super underrated uncommon champion is Zephyr Sniper. Might be familiar with her. I don't feel like I've heard anybody talk about her for a while though. Again, defense based, so pump up her toughness and she does more damage. She's got really good base defense of 1200. Speed of 100 is nice. HP a little low, but you can certainly cope with that with these other 2 stats being good. Why is she so special? Well, she's got an AoE A1. It's really rare in the game. Not many champions have AoE A1s. It means you're getting a hit off on everybody. So again, something like Spider, if there's 10 enemies, you're getting like a 10x on the damage she does because she'll hit all 10 of them. She also has a 30% chance when booked up of increasing a cooldown of a random skill by 1 turn. Really good for disruption. So in Doom Tower, Dungeon Waves, Faction Wars, a 30% chance to put a random skill on cooldown is annoying. It's gonna disrupt and upset the enemy team. Of course, don't ever use skill books. When I say book up champions, feed them extra copies of themselves. But this is an A1 that is fantastic. Get yourself some counterattack accessories if you can from your clan shop, and you can have an A1 that you can have up to a 15% chance to counterattack with it. Put her in a stun set and she'll be doing absolute work for you. Chance to stun whenever she hits, cooldown reduction. It's just wonderful champion. Her A2 is a small version continuous heal for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. If you've got another healer in the presets, just lock this one off. Just have her going with her A1 all the time, spitting out this like random skill cooldown reduction, spitting out stuns if you do have her in a stun set, or just spitting out straight damage if you want to put her in like a lifesteal and try and build her up, pump up her damage stats. Really underrated champion. Okay, next we have got ourselves somebody from the High Elves. Again, this is somebody back in the day who we did used to talk about a lot, but I don't think gets much traction anymore. This is Elfguard. Again, a little squishy here with 700 defense and 1300 HP. Speed reasonably slow at 92. She's got a decreased attack A1, only 25% chance, and it's only the small version of decreased attack, but that is still at least potentially some utility out of her A1. But her main move is her A2, bucks down to a 2-turn cooldown, and it will decrease turn meter by 50%. So that is pretty decent turn meter reduction. Quick insert here, it's filthy. I'm editing this video. I don't like my explanation for how this character's kit works. It decreases the current turn meter 50%. I don't think I stressed that enough. So if a character that she's facing has a turn meter of 80%, she'll decrease it by 50%. So that is a half of it. So it'll go from 80 to 40. She doesn't subtract 50%, it's just half. So if you've got 20% turn meter on an enemy, she uses her A2, they then go down to 10% of their turn meter. It's still really effective, but I just want to get that across. So it doesn't fully deplete the turn meter ever, it only takes it back halfway along. Now you can do some pretty insane things with it. We talked about Armiger earlier. You can pair her with Armiger and really try and lock somebody's turn meter out, because every other turn she's basically getting 50% turn meter reduction. Put her in a relentless set and extra turns, does the A1, comes back, gets the A2. Now theoretically you can build 2 copies of her at very similar speeds, and then you can kind of delay the A2 on one of them, so that basically every single time one of them goes, it's a 50% turn meter reduction. Again, pair that with an Armiger, which you might not need to do with 2 of them. You have to play your finite team by ear. Obviously that's potentially 3 slots in the team, but you can potentially keep the entire turn meter down for something like Spider, for something like the Fire Knight or the Scarab boss. If you do invest in it, you of course are going to have to build it with accuracy, with some speed, with some toughness stats. It's going to be quite hard, but this is an interesting move. 50% turn meter depletion is pretty good. So I think she's quite underrated, certainly worthy of a 40, maybe a 50. You could have 2 of her at 50 to do some groovy turn meter control stuff if needed, or maybe 1 of her and an Armiger at 50, and then look to 5-star chicken them later. But I think pretty underrated and a very rare and unusual ability there. Next up we have got ourselves Pilgrim, who is not amazing, but I still think probably a little underrated. The reason I think he's underrated is defense is decent at nearly 1000, HP is nearly okay at 15k. Like, these are kind of rare stats, I'd say. He's not going to do much damage for you, so don't worry about his attack. But he does have a double hit A1 with a little bit of turn meter reduction, so okay-ish for Fire Knight. But his main move, I think that we're interested in here, so I wouldn't really build him with accuracy for this. It's not good enough. But you could put him in a team and do increased defense for everybody for 2 turns. 1 copy of him, feed it to himself, it comes down to a 3-turn cooldown. Pair him with a Valerie, who is a Bannerlord available from the campaign for free. Again, 1 copy of her goes into herself for increased buff duration. What that means is that whichever beginner dungeon wave you do in Clan Boss, if you speed tune those 2 correctly, you can have increased defense for the entire time. Now, early on in Clan Boss, hard, easy, normal, hard, increased defense will go you a long way to lasting further. You just need your poisoner to come in and do some poison damage. I guess whilst we're here and talking poison and uncommon Sacred Order, we should probably just give a little mention to the Outlaw Monk, who does place the big version of poison for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown, who is decent. He can't be speed tuned for Clan Boss, and he's really squishy. One of the squishiest champions in the game with 12,000 HP and under 700 defense, because he's got this 10% extra turn chance, which is a little rubbish, because it would be nice if that didn't work, because then you could rely on him for the poisons. Another solid poison option, just very briefly, off-piste we go, is a Brute, who I think is underrated really, because he will do 2 attacks at random, 50% chance of poison, only for 1 turn. You can lock out his A2 in Clan Boss, and he is literally just doing a 50-50 chance every time he takes a turn of a 5% poison. Easier to keep alive because he's got another couple of thousand HP on the Outlaw Monk and a little bit of extra defense. And again, you could maybe, they're separate affinities, so you could build 2 poisoners to 40 and then chicken them later. But that was Pilgrim. Next up is a control champion from the Orcs. Again, I think probably a little bit overlooked, and this is going to be the Warchanter. Now, his kit's not amazing for control, but it is good. So he has got a 30% chance of stun on his A1. This is based on HP, so again, similarly, we can pump his HP up, make him tankier, make him do a bit more damage. 19k is really high for an uncommon champion, and his defense is not far off 800, so again, as a toughness-ish champion, that's not too bad. Speed 94, again, it's not the end of the world, but he does AoE on a 3-turn cooldown when you get copies of him, with a 40% chance of doing decreased attack. So a lot of units in this game do damage based on attack, so that will keep your team alive a little bit longer. And he also does provoke as well, so again a similar 40% chance. So that's not bad for a bit of control. Now there is of course another control champion, Magic Affinity, who is rare, so he's a little bit harder to get, but the 2 of them paired together can do work for you, which is Greybeard. AoE freeze, get this guy from the campaign. Again, 40% chance of AoE freeze, counterattack and shield on himself, locks out with a really nice 70% provoke on his A1. So those 2 champs could really lock waves down for you. So I do like that guy, the Warchanter. He is pretty nice. And do we have one more? We do, which is the Lizardman Skinner. Quite underrated. Again, I would be reluctant to take this guy past 40, but you could do with a view to chickening him later. He's got a triple hit A1, so he's really useful in early Fire Night if you're struggling to get the shield down. Bring in somebody with a triple hit. His stats are Outlaw Monk miserable low, unfortunately, because he's got rubbish defense at just over 600, rubbish speed at 89, and rubbish HP at 1300. So, make no illusions, it's going to be hard to keep him alive. But he does also do a remove 2 random buffs from the target, so this makes him a great candidate for magic and also the Spirit's Keep. So yeah, if you need someone for Fire Night to get the shield down, if you need someone to strip buffs, I think he's probably a little bit underrated. The other main stripper, of course, we have is in the Bannerlords. So again, you have to hang out in Act 1. It takes a lot of books to get this down to 2-turn cooldown, but he does remove 2 random buffs. He's the wrong affinity for the Magic Keep though, and again he is squishy because his HP, the Conqueror, is really low at 12k, albeit slightly better defense, so it might be better rather than trying to build this guy. He does have Block Revive, which can be useful for Ice Golem, but you're probably better getting that from an Armiger, and instead of like getting multiple copies of this guy and booking him, maybe just a Skinner to 40 until you find somebody else who removes books. So that is it, guys. They are my champions, 5 champions who I think are really underrated, who everybody can get for free. Build them to 40, maybe consider doing some of them to 50. If I was going to say which ones I would potentially 6-star, it would probably only be the Zephyr Sniper, maybe the Elfguard, because I think their 2 kits are actually quite interesting. Again, it depends what pulls you get out of your ancient shards and sacreds, voids, whatever. These are not going to be end game viable champions, but they can do some really good work for you, whether it's faction wars, dungeons, clan boss. Just figure out which one of these champions potentially helps you out in your account. That's been the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been the Filthy Casual. Take it easy, guys. Peace.